The official cause of Prince's death was an accidental overdose of painkillers, which helped bring the opioid crisis into the spotlight. Let's take a look back at what else we learned about the superstar since his tragic passing. Industry icon Sheila E. knew Prince for a long time. They first played together in the late 1970s. They collaborated on her debut album. They were engaged, and although they split, they remained close friends until his death. At the time of his passing, they lived just 2 miles apart. She spoke with ET shortly after Prince's death, and according to her, he'd been dealing with health issues for a long time, mostly performance-related. She shared, "You think about all the years he was jumping off those risers. They were not low, they were very, very high, and he had those heels on. He was in pain all the time, but he was a performer." Those who saw Prince before and after his final concert on April 14, 2016, said that he hadn't been feeling well. Instead of attending the after-party, he got on his plane and headed home where, according to heavily redacted documents released by officials in Moline, Illinois, he suffered a medical emergency that required the administration of 2 doses of Narcan. In 2018, Prince's family sued the hospital where he was treated, claiming he'd been misdiagnosed during the incident, which happened just days before his death. In a statement, attending Dr. Nicole F. Mancha explained that Prince refused to undergo the tests she recommended and instead left the hospital and headed home. There were only a few people on the plane with Prince that day, including assistant Kurt Johnson and Prince's protege, Grammy-winning artist Judith Hill. In an interview with the New York Times that ran a few months after his death, Hill said there had been no warning and that they'd made plans for later, sharing, "He wanted to watch Zootopia. He loved those films. I was going to pull it up on my phone. He said, no, not here. We're going to pick a special time and place to watch that." In her New York Times interview, Hill shared that she'd reached out to some of his inner circle and made it clear that he needed help after the mid-flight overdose. According to Hill, Prince initially tried to downplay the severity of what had happened until those around him convinced him to take it seriously. Hill recalled, "He was very cooperative that whole night and serious about getting help."
The key to longevity is to learn every aspect of music that you can.
She said that they'd contacted a California-based addiction specialist named Dr. Howard Kornfeld, and that Prince agreed to undergo a series of tests. He'd been brutally honest about his near-death experience, telling her, "I had to fight for my life. I remember hearing your voices from afar and saying to myself, follow the voices, get back in your body. You gotta do this."
His greatest and perhaps only fear was dying alone.
Hill went on to explain, he wanted to do the right thing for his own body, and that's the part that breaks my heart, because he was trying.
I'm really looking forward to the future now.
The investigation into Prince's death was understandably complex, and in 2017, some of the documents relating to that investigation were made public. These included details regarding the pills that had been found in bottles scattered throughout Paisley Park. Investigators specified that the pills were not contained in typical prescription pill bottles, but rather were stored in various other containers such as vitamin bottles.
There's nothing in Miami but people who weren't born there and drugs.
Yeah, and they know more than you'll ever learn in your little small sheltered world.
Things got more confusing when investigators found some prescriptions made out in the name of Kirk Johnson, Prince's longtime aide, and that's when a few different stories came out. In one, Johnson said he had reached out to Dr. Michael Schulenberg to get prescriptions that would help alleviate some of Prince's chronic hip pain, and later added that when he picked up prescriptions for Prince which were written in Johnson's name the day before Prince's death, it was the first time. Schulenberg, meanwhile, said he issued the prescription in Johnson's name for privacy reasons, although his attorney later stated he had never issued a prescription to someone knowing it would be used by Prince. That day, Johnson had picked up prescriptions for clonidine for high blood pressure and ADHD, Valium, and hydroxyzine pamoate, a drug used to treat anxiety. The documents revealed that prescription pill bottles for the anti-nausea drug ondansetron hydrochloride and Percocet were also found. Ultimately, Johnson was found not to have procured the drugs that led to Prince's death. B12 is one of the many vitamins humans need in order to survive, and interestingly, there are plenty of people who don't get enough of it, particularly vegans and vegetarians. While there are plenty of sources out there that say Prince was vegan, there are also a number of stories about his absolutely epic cooking skills, particularly scrambled eggs.
Well, don't point those at me, they might go off.
Regardless of the precise details, it's entirely possible that Prince's largely meat-free diet meant that he was, like many others, suffering from a B12 deficiency, but a definite diagnosis was unclear, partially because it was revealed after his death that he didn't have a regular doctor. The investigation that was conducted after his death also revealed the fact that his management team was tasked with arranging pre-performance B12 shots for Prince in whatever area he happened to have a concert scheduled for. Official documents said that he used them to, quote, feel better. In addition to news regarding Prince's use of prescription painkillers, more information started to emerge about not only the official cause of death, but the circumstances that led to his tragic passing. Prince's autopsy report was released by the Midwest Medical Examiner's Office in June 2016, and the official cause was fentanyl toxicity. The report included the note, "The decedent self-administered fentanyl." Fentanyl can be deadly when it's present in the blood at levels between 3 and 58 micrograms per liter. Prince died with a blood concentration level of 67.8 micrograms. That was exceptionally high, and it was also reported that fentanyl was discovered present in the mislabeled pills found in his home during the post-death investigation.
In all likelihood, Prince had no idea he was taking a counterfeit pill that could kill him.
The pills that actually contained fentanyl were labeled Watson 853, which are a combination of hydrocodone bitartrate and acetaminophen, more popularly known by the brand name Tylenol. This medication is prescribed as a painkiller, but the investigation was never able to determine where the pills had come from. Movies, TV shows, and music videos have to be filmed somewhere, and when famous locations hit the open market, it can be a big deal. In 2015, it was announced that the Kid's House from Purple Rain was for sale. It was priced at a pretty reasonable $110,000, which came with the caveat that the property needed a decent amount of work. The house sold, but it wasn't until after Prince's death that it was revealed that he'd bought it himself.
I'm Prince. How rude of me. I haven't given you enough time to freak out yet. You may do so now.
The real estate agent who arranged the sale spoke with the Star Tribune to confirm that yes, he'd been behind the $117,000 purchase. Coldwell Banker's Deborah Larson explained, "I don't think he had a plan. I think he just wanted it." Larson said that when she got the offer from an unnamed party who wanted to buy the house sight unseen, she was pretty skeptical. It wasn't the first offer, but she knew it was the real deal when the paperwork, made out to NPG Music Publishing, went through. The sale happened about 8 months before his death, and the property sat largely untouched for years. In 2024, it was announced that it was remodeled and would be opening as a Prince-themed Airbnb. In 2015, The Guardian spoke with Prince's former sound engineer, Susan Rogers. She told them that she had been responsible for beginning the infamous vault of unreleased recordings, nestled safely within the walls of Paisley Park. It started when she started working for Prince in 1983, but the late rock star apparently hadn't had concrete plans for everything stored there. In fact, former manager Alan Leeds recalled, he said that one day he'd just burn everything.
I have nothing else to prove. I feel like the greatest performer that I could have been.
It's maybe a good thing then that Prince had reportedly forgotten the combination for the vault, and when he died, no one else had it. That was just part of the problem. According to professional safecracker Dave McComey, that particular model was notoriously difficult to crack. McComey, however, cracked it and opened an approximately 800 square foot room packed with unreleased music. According to McComey, years of safecracking experience meant that he reflexively didn't look inside at first, but he later told Ultimate Classic Rock he got the go-ahead, saying, "Now, by bank standards, the safe is on the large side, and yet there was hardly any room in the vault because it was just jam-packed with these industrial shelving units, and every one of them was packed bottom to top with tapes." Some material has been released since, including the release of 7 E-flat version, and all are shared together now in 2023. One of Prince's most famous performances came at the 2004 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions. Prince was there for his own induction, but it was during a tribute to George Harrison that he stepped up to play an incredible solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Alongside Tom Petty, Harrison's son Danny, Steve Winwood, Jeff Lynne, and Mark Mann, Prince wrapped up the tribute with a shocking, almost otherworldly solo. After his death, those who were there that day spoke to the New York Times about how it all came together and revealed that they hadn't rehearsed it and had no idea what was going to unfold on stage.
I'm the artist formerly known as Prince.
Ooh, and I'm the bear currently known as Not Amused.
It was ceremony director and producer Joel Gallen who arranged to have Prince there and explained that when they rehearsed, Prince was there and stood by as others took on the solos. He volunteered for the end solo, and that was sort of it. Gallen said, "They never rehearsed it, really. never showed us what he was going to do, and he left basically telling me, the producer of the show, not to worry, and the rest is history. Petty also weighed in on the night, saying that the atmosphere was electric. He added that he had been thinking about Prince in the days before his death, saying, "I almost told myself I was going to call him and just see how he was. I'm starting to think you should just act on those things all the time." When Prince died, it was of course unexpected, but it also revealed just how important estate planning is. In the midst of grieving, there were major questions about what was going to happen to his estate. It took a full 6 years for the estate to be settled. In the end, it was divided between Prince Legacy LLC and Prince Oat Holdings LLC, which is complicated. In fact, to say it was complicated is a massive understatement. In addition to things like property and cash, there were other assets like copyrights and intellectual property to be considered, and the lack of a will or executor meant that Prince's hard work and beloved music wasn't perhaps handed out to the people he would have hoped it would go to.
Anything beautiful is worth getting hurt for.
Well, it's very well put.
You know who said that?
No.
Me.
And in the end, that's a terrible kind of irony. Prince famously spent decades standing up for the rights of the artist, going up against some of the biggest record companies in the business over issues of artistic freedom, royalties, ownership of master recordings, and control over creations. Later, he went toe-to-toe with the internet too, insisting on pulling pirated songs from websites and ordering an end to the distribution of things like videos that used his music in the background without first securing the rights. Prince spent his entire life trying to ensure control of his music, but in the end, it was at the mercy of the courts. If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's national helpline at 1-800-662-HELP-4357.